Hare Abhishinchachchatapatra netro Vipashanasham Harirchidura
Kachit Sukam Satvata Vishni Boja Dashargana Mahipasavaste Yamabhyashinchachchata Patra Netro Vipasanasham Parivitya Kachit Sukam Satvata Vishni Boja Dashargana Mahipasavaste Vipasanasam Sukam Satata Vrishni Bhoja Dashar Hakanam Adhipasa Aste Yam Abhyasinchach Chatrapatra Netro Vipasanasham Parijitya Durat
Kachit Sukam Satvata Vishni Boja Dasharhakanam Adhipasavaste Abhyasinchach Chatapatra Netro Nirpashanan Samparihitya Durat.
Wording 6 minutes. Kachit, weather. Sukham is all well. Satvata, the Satvata race. Vrishni, the Vrishni dynasty. Bhoja, the Bhoja dynasty. Dasharhakanam, the Dasharha race. Aripaha, King Ugrasena. Saha, he. Aste, does exist. Yam, whom. Abhyasinchat, installed. Shatapatra Netra, Lord Shri Krishna. Nripa Asana Asham, hope of the royal throne. Payharitya, giving up. Durat, at a distant place. Translation, O my friend, tell me whether Ugrasena, the king of the Sattvatas, Vrishnis, Bhojas, and Dasharhas, is now doing well. He went far away from his kingdom, leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne. But Lord Krishna again installed him. Purport, someone can read?
This one, can you scroll down, Prabhu?
Yeah, this one doesn't have a purport here.
So let's read the next text. We'll read the Sanskrit first. Just do it together. Kachitare somya sutta sadriksha aste gani ratinam sadhusambha asutayam jambavati pratadya devam guham yombikaya pitogre. O gentle one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth, he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva. And now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, the most enriched wife of Krishna. Purport.
Purport. Lord Shiva, one of the three qualitative incarnations of the personality of Godhead, is the plenary expansion of the Lord. Kartikeya, born of him, is on the level of Pradyumna, another son of Lord Krishna. When Lord Sri Krishna descends into the material world, all his plenary portions also appear with him to exhibit different functions of the Lord. But for the pastimes at Vrindavan, all functions are performed by the Lord's different plenary expansions. Vasudeva is a plenary expansion of Narayana. When the Lord appeared as Vasudeva before Devaki and Vasudeva, he appeared in his capacity as Narayana. Similarly, all the demigods of the heavenly kingdom appeared as associates of the Lord in the forms of Pradyumna, Samba, Uddhava, etc. It is learned here that Kamadeva appeared as Pradyumna, Kartikeya as Samba, and one of the Vasus as Uddhava. All of them served in their different capacities in order to enrich the pastimes of Krishna.
This was the instruction given by the Lord when he was approached by Bhumi, goddess of earth, and the other demigods went to seek the benediction of the Lord when the demons, the Daityas, and the Asuras, and the Rakshasas, they were gathering their forces on earth. Earth is a very large place, the middle planetary system, 14 planetary systems vertically, and the Bhumandala is the 8th going up. So there are 7 below and 6 above. And it's very large scale earth covering almost the entire diameter of the Bhumandala planet. The Bhumandala is, the Brahmanda is the egg, or shall we say, the universe that Brahma has control over. So it's a very large place, and demons had made their plans to take over that. And Kamsa was an important member of that team. Formerly he was also a demon, just as the residents of these different, both these dynasties, some of them were were demigods or expansions of the Lord appearing like that. So similarly, some of them were also other demons, famous demons that had taken birth. It's like Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha. These are the sons of Diti. And those who came from those two, especially, they are also forming the Daityas, certain type. And then there's the Danavas. They came from the wife Danu. These are wives that gave birth to races of demons and devotees, or saintly demigods. So in this case, Ugrasena was very pious, and in his previous life, he was Maruta. Maruta was a very famous king who performed the Rajasuya sacrifice in such an extraordinary way that no one could ever imagine. It's said that no one could ever do it again, and no one ever did it up to that level before. It was so opulent. It was that sacrifice where all the plates and the paraphernalia for the performance of the sacrifice were made of gold, and they were left in their place because the Brahmanas were not interested in taking gold with them, so they just left them there. This gold was given in charity to the Brahmanas, but they didn't bother to take it. It was too heavy to carry. So that's Krishna gave instruction, and Arjuna was sent there to get gold for the performance of the sacrifice. After the Battle of Kurukshetra took place, that means that all the sons of Dhritarashtra were killed. All the members of, practically all the members of both families, Kurus and the Pandavas families, were killed. So it was a complete devastation. The only ones who were remaining were the 5 Pandavas and a few Brahmins, but they were more like priests for the Kuru dynasty, but they weren't in the line for ruling. The only Duryodhana was finished, and the brothers, some of the brothers of the king before, Shantanu, his brothers were still there. They fought in the Battle of Kurukshetra. They were all Purishra, they were also killed. So the whole dynasty was wiped out. As predicted, it would be by Vidura and the other very intelligent persons, Brahmins. So, and Bhishma also, he disappeared. He couldn't be killed. He couldn't die unless he wanted to die. But he also was tired of this, living on this planet. He didn't want to come to Earth or this material world from higher planets. But that was a long story how he got involved in that, and he was ordered because of offenses to come down and have to live on Earth for some time. So he lived, and he got benediction from his father that he would not have to die unless he wanted to die. So he was tired of all this, and his body was shot with arrows. So even though he wouldn't die, his body was completely shot with arrows. So very difficult to work with a body like that. After the Pandavas won the Battle of Kurukshetra, then they came before Bhishma. Bhishma was very happy that Yudhishthira had been restored to the kingdom. Now, And afterwards, Yudhisthira performed Ashwamedha sacrifice, and they needed gold, huge amounts of gold. So Arjuna went there, brought back the gold from Maruta's former sacrifice, and therefore he's known as Dhananjaya.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada says Lord Shiva is one of the three qualitative incarnations of the personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva so Lord Shiva is one of those personalities. It's a little bit difficult to understand. He said, Lord Shiva, one of the three qualitative incarnations of the personality of Godhead is the plenary expansion of the Lord. So Lord Shiva is one of the three qualitative incarnations of the personality of Godhead. Yeah, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, exactly, yeah. Shiva corresponds to, he's the presiding deity of Tamagun. Get the mic. We get a mic from Ardanga Prabhu.
So Lord Shiva is responsible for destroying, the creation destruction is in the mode of ignorance. And also, Lord Shiva, he sits and meditates in a graveyard covered with ashes and has snakes around his neck for garlands. And he has disciples, many disciples that are ghosts and bhutas and pischakas and lower forms of demoniac ancestry. So Lord Shiva is also the topmost Vaishnava, though. So he has the potency to elevate these demonic living entities. But you see a lot of Shivites and stuff. They worship Lord Shiva because for material things, and so we don't really worship Lord Shiva so much because so many demons worship Lord Shiva, and because he has demons as disciples, demonic classes of men. They do, have different habits, they do different things, and don't follow any, certain principles. They smoke ganja, and then things. So it's like that. But the temples, ISKCON temples, a lot of them celebrate Shivaratri, have a festival, Shivaratri. And for the Indians, and it gets a big turnout. A lot of people come, not just Indians, but a lot of also, like when I was in the Tucson temple, a lot of people came from Westerners came too, and it was a very lively thing. They had dancers and stuff like that, and they had a big they had bhajans in the temple room. And they had a big Shiva linga and abhishek, like that. So it's a pretty festive occasion if the temple, if you're equipped to have a celebration. That's also, there's nothing wrong with that.
Thank you, bro. Yeah. So here in ISKCON we don't really worship Lord Shiva. It's a nice point that because he's got a lot of demons worship him for powers, mystic powers, and things like that. But he's not exactly in the category of Jiva Tattva, like Lord Brahma and the other demigods. They're in Jiva Tattva. They're Jiva souls. Lord Shiva's a little different. He's in his own category. He's in Shiva Tattva. Because he's an expansion of Sadashiva, and Sadashiva is actually Sadashiva has a planet in Vaikuntha, so he's in the spiritual world and he's eternal. Yeah, and he's the glance of Mahavishnu. When Mahavishnu glances at the pradhana, or the sum total of the material energy, and impregnates the material energy with his glance, that glance is known as Mahakala, or Shiva. Another name for Shiva is Mahakala, meaning great time. The glance activates Prakriti, or the pradhana, and then of that glance. The base, yeah. Yoni and the linga, yeah. Right, yeah. Mridanga Prabhu was just talking about the worshipping the Shiva linga, and in the yoni, the base of the yoni. And this method is prescribed. This method is detailed in the Puranas. This is a Puranic method. But there's a lot of there's some other scriptures or texts that talk about how to worship Shiva in the Agamas, the Shaiva Agamas, and different tantric texts. And in the Mahabharata, we hear about different sects of Shaivism, ancient Shaivism. Like in Mahabharata, we hear about the Pashupatas, or they're considered the oldest tradition which worships Lord Shiva, and from them comes the Kapalikas, which are those ascetics who wander around with the skull cups. Because in the Dharma Shastras, I don't know if it's the Manu Samhita. I don't think it's the Manu Samhita, but there's some other Dharma Shastra which prescribes that the penance that one undergoes when he kills a Brahmana, Brahmahatya, is that he has to take the skull of that Brahmana and basically he uses that skull as his begging bowl. So he'll go around with that skull and he'll beg alms from society. And this is kind of a shameful thing that everybody knows that this individual who's got this skull, he's a killer of a brahmana. It's a very sinful position to be in. And so these Kapalakas, they imitate Lord Shiva, because there's one pastime where Lord Shiva he gets angry at Lord Brahma, and this is given in one of the Puranas. But he gets angry at Lord Brahma, and he cuts off Brahma's head, one of Brahma's heads, and then he takes that head and he wanders around the cremation ground with that head. And that's the form of Lord Shiva known as Bhairava, who's in particularly in the cremation grounds in Varanasi. They worship this form of Lord Shiva. And so these individuals, they imitate Lord Shiva by carrying the kapala, the skull, and they smear their body in ashes, and they engage in some worship, different kinds of worship of this form of Lord Shiva. But primarily for mystical powers. They're after mystical powers, cities and things like that. So yeah, we're not generally interested in those things at all. Well, one thing is that with pure devotional service, automatically all those things follow pure devotional service. Cities and all opulences, and that's already given, that's already there. Because pure devotional service is transcendently more powerful than all these different other processes, mundane liberation or impersonal liberation, and mystical powers. Because one is solely dependent on the Supreme Lord, and in that position, just like somebody who's got a rich father or whatnot, he takes shelter of his father and his life is taken care of. He doesn't necessarily need to go off and do his own thing and try to survive and try to make it in the world. So like that, the Lord is He's the Lord of all demigods and the Lord of all opulences and energies and planets. And so, simply by surrendering to Krishna and engaging in his pure devotional service, all other things follow. And the devotee is not concerned about those things either. The 5 kinds of liberation, impersonal liberation, merging into the effulgence of the Lord, acquiring the same opulences as the Lord, same powers, acquiring the same form as the Lord, living on the same planet as the Lord. He just, birth after birth, wants the causeless devotional service of the Lord. So just to be engaged in the service of the Lord, that's the only desire of the devotee. So yeah, we don't necessarily care about these things, but they're there in the scriptures. We hear about Lord Shiva. We hear about his followers. In the Bhagavatam somewhere it says those, the followers of Lord Shiva are foolish because they keep matted hair and they're engaging in tamasic activities, smearing themselves with ash. A lot of these ascetics, they worship Shiva by offering him flesh and alcohol and ganja. A lot like the early Shaivite traditions, a lot of them would actually engage in human sacrifice. So they would offer human flesh to Lord Shiva in the form of Bhairava. And he would accept this, and then like that, they're after material powers and whatnot. But this is a very demoniac form of worship. It's very, very... Lord Shiva is in the form of Bhairava. And in this form, they worship him and they offer him flesh, and they offer him wine, stuff like that. With Kali, yeah, as well. Now it's a little more tame. There's not so much... They offer animal flesh. I don't know how often humans get sacrificed in India. I don't think it's I mean, it's illegal, they're cracking down on. But thousands of years ago, this was happening. But yeah, this is a very toxic form of worship. Like we can see Vrikasura, who was cutting his flesh. He was cutting his own flesh off, and he was offering it to Lord Shiva in order to get a benediction. And Lord Shiva came eventually and offered to him that benediction. And Vrikasura used it to try to kill Lord Shiva in order to basically become him. He wanted to take over his post and enjoy Parvati. And at that point, Lord Shiva, he goes to Vishnu for help. And Vishnu comes in the form of this Brahmana, and he tricks Vrikasura into using the benediction to kill himself. So the benediction was that whoever's head I touch, that person dies. And so the Brahmana, Vishnu in the form of the Brahmana, got this demon to touch his own head and kill himself. And so Lord Shiva, he accepts worship from the demons, demigods alike, but often he does find that there's troublesome situations are created from this, and so he goes to Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. There's also an interesting deity in Mayapur. I don't know if it's Mayapur exactly, somewhere in Bengal. But it's Hare. It's half Lord Shiva, half Lord Vishnu. And the deity is split down the middle, so on either side, but one side he's white-skinned, and he's got his trident. Other side he's dark-skinned, and he's got maybe the club and conch shell, I'm not sure what else. But yeah, there's this deity in Bengal. And also Advaitacharya is said to be Mahavishnu as well as Sadashiva. And it's described that in the Bhagavatam, in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, that Lord Shiva's worshipable deity is Anantashesh, and actually that he is a portion of Anantashesh. So in this way, inconceivably, Lord Shiva is actually Vishnu. He's coming from Vishnu. But he can't be considered to be exactly like Lord Vishnu. Just like yogurt comes from milk, but similarly, you can't consider that yogurt is milk. But they're made of the same substance. One is coming from milk, yogurt's coming from milk. So it's not that Krishna becomes Shiva, but that Shiva comes from Krishna, and he's got more qualities than we do. So we have a certain set of qualities that are, the Lord has full qualities. We have a certain set of qualities like the Lord. The demigods do too. And Lord Shiva has more qualities like Vishnu than we do, but he doesn't have exactly as many qualities as Vishnu. So he's in a kind of an interesting category. Anyways, anyone want to say anything or? Okay, so we can end it there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.